Right, you're still watching the news at now 9, and we're now joined by sociologist and political analyst Dr. Situlejo Matebesi from our studios in Bloemfontein. A very good evening to you, Dr. Matebesi. What do you make of the apparent standoff between Luthuli House and Union Buildings?
Well, this is something that has been made for a long time, that has been coming for a long time. It started on the eve of the elective conference of the African National Congress. And I think this has to do with the factional groupings within the African National Congress which is taking place. And if you look at the conduct of President Jacob Zuma during his tenure, I don't think this would have been an issue, the whole notion of two centers of power, if there was not a lot of serious allegations against somebody like President Jacob Zuma.
But these allegations didn't surface today. What's changed?
Yes, this is going to be very difficult. I know that the president will be addressing the nation tomorrow, but fact of the matter is this issue has been dragging out for more than a week, and a lot of people will say, but how does this matter differ with the 2008 Mbeki situation? But there's a vast difference. We should understand that President Mbeki at that time actually decided to resign, and the African National Congress did not have to go the route of actually utilizing Section 102 of the Constitution. But if you look at the composition of the National Assembly, the African National Congress, I don't believe that all 249 members of the African National Congress will vote against President Jacob Zuma if this issue have to be tabled at Parliament.
You mentioned the issue of factions earlier on in this conversation, but it would seem that the NEC was quite united, which means both factions have decided that the president must go. So then surely logical deduction would say that there are no factional issues here.
Yeah, it's very difficult for the African National Congress. I think for the very first time they had a situation, and especially if you look, President Jacob Zuma already had 2 terms and is about to finish his 2 terms. But the danger for the African National Congress is that if they still have President Jacob Zuma 3 months or even 6 months before the next year's election, that will dent the support of the African National Congress. It will also send out a wrong message. And if I look at the situation, if we look at the political landscape, we will say the so-called Cyril camp actually started on the right foot by taking decisive decisions. But at the end of the day, I strongly believe that the elephant in the room is President Jacob Zuma. And a lot of people will also ask questions, but why does the ANC not take firm actions against President Jacob Zuma? But we had to be very cautious about this whole issue, because at the end of the day, the ANC will need all its support from all provinces, and we know that President Jacob Zuma does not only have support from the province of KwaZulu-Natal, but also other provinces in the country. And you also have a very strong ardent supporters within key positions in the African National Congress, and those are the members that the African National Congress will want come 2019.
Do you think the president will resign this week?
Well, it's a very difficult question to respond to. Firstly, if the president does not resign, which is a great possibility, we should understand that if you look at the financial situation of President Jacob Zuma, if all these allegations are true, that he has been involved in, the so-called state capture reports and the Gupta leaks and all that, then I strongly believe he's already made his millions. So the financial side sides of the benefits that goes with your retired or former president. I don't think that will be an issue, but the issue here, it's all about power. Politics, it's about power. The longer you can hold power, the more you can take crucial decisions. And I think one of the problems for the African National Congress to actually hold longer on to President Jacob Zuma is that he is so unpredictable, because he can come up with decisions that will cost this country even beyond the African National Congress.
You said that he loves power, but he said that he didn't want to be president. He said that he tried to hide, they chased him, they found him, and in fact he had hoped he'd only do one term. What changed?
Sorry, can you just repeat the question?
I was just saying that the president said that he didn't ever want to be president. What might have changed?
Yeah, well, it's going to be very difficult. President Jacob Zuma has been president for the ANC for the past for 2 tenures, as I've already indicated. But the danger for the African National Congress is that there is absolutely no guarantee that Cyril Ramaphosa will be elected as president if President Jacob Zuma does not resign tomorrow. I think it will be much easier for the African National Congress if President Jacob Zuma actually tender his resignation tomorrow, because we should also understand that the opposition party that will not necessarily vote with the ANC, they may just decide that, well, they have been calling that the president should be recalled, or actually tabling votes of no confidence in the President Jacob Zuma, and all those votes of no confidence in the president or attempts to actually get rid of him failed, and I can't see why they will now want to support the African National Congress. So all these are the issues that I think will come to play when the president does not resign tomorrow. But I foresee a situation perhaps where President Jacob Zuma will once again just make a public announcement and move on.
All right, okay, that's where we're going to leave it. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening. That was Dr. Setulego Matebesi joining us from our studios in Bloemfontein.